Welcome back, everybody! Out of all the different genres of games, none have remained as persistent as platformers. Mario 1 and 3 created techniques that are still used to this day. Yet there is another genre of platformer that is a little bit weird. 3D platformers. Now what do you think of when you hear the term 3D platformer? That's right, Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Crash Bandicoot, Gex.
Get a real job.
Okay, Gex has been dormant for a few years, but still. But isn't it weird how some of the more memorable 3D platformers were from the PS1 era? Isn't that kind of weird? Let's do this.
Let's go.
When most people think of video games, running and jumping is usually the first thing that comes to mind, thanks to what is Super Mario Bros. On the NES. Sure, 2D platformers are crispy and all, but 3D platforms are where it's at. The last few months were great. We had an RC Mario Kart, a look back into the history of Zelda, and of course the PS5. Along with all that, we had 3 new platformers, being likes of Sackboy Big Adventure, Crash Bandicoot 4, and Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Now, I am a big fan of 3D platformers. In fact, it's my favorite video game genre, and I have to say, it's about time. Crash Bandicoot 4, the only 4th game that's actually the 8th. Finally, after 20 years since the last game and 12 years since the last attempt at a game, Crash is finally back, along with 3D platformers in general. Come to think of it, the last good 3D platformers came out in 2017, with wonderful titles such as A Hat in Time, Super Mario Odyssey, the Insane Trilogy, and Yooka-Laylee. Yeah, 4 years ago. That's kinda hard to believe. Anyways, that year was considered as the revival of 3D platformers, and a new renaissance for the genre. Why weren't there any in 2018-19? Well, let's look at the state of the genre before 2017. In 2016, we had Ratchet & Clank. Overall a good game, but I don't consider this a 3D platformer as much as a third-person shooter. In 2015, we had SpongeBob Hero Pants. Okay. In 2014, we had Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. I'm really trying here. The genre mostly went downhill after a little thing I like to call 3D World. This was probably the game that crafted the genre. Personally, I love fixed camera 3D platformers, but not everyone else. In 2013, there were also some hits like Sly Cooper Thieves in Time and Sonic and the Lost World, but that wasn't enough to keep the industry running. But the genre was at one of its peaks in 2010 with a little thing called Galaxy 2. Everybody on this planet absolutely loves this game, except for me! This is widely considered the magnum opus and the 3D platformer to end all 3D platformers. And it practically did just that. Now, one of the reasons why this game is so beloved is because most of the 3D platformers at the time were on the Wii. If you were a 3D platformer on the Wii, you were practically worthless. With the exception of Galaxy 1. Most of these games were pure well, you get the idea. Thankfully, Sony was in the game with Jak and Daxter and Sly Cooper during this time. But the 3D platform audience had a machine to play tennis with Matt. But if we look a generation before that, now this is where the genre thrived. So many 3D platformers were on all 3 consoles, being the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. Nintendo had their Mario Sunshine, Sony had Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank. 4 mascots for the price of 2. Nice. And Xbox had Psychonauts. A machine that is only meant for playing Halo has an exclusive 3D platformer. Not what I expected, but I am kinda hyped for the second coming out later this year. But this era is where first-party games weren't the star of the show. I have 7 words for you. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Or is that 8? But this era was when the concept of, if you want a 3D platformer for your new fancy IP, then just shut the up and do it! Some of these games are just as good as Wario Land. Sure, these games are made for kids, but those kids are now adults, and are spending money on a remake. Nice. Now, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to play Going Quackers at least once in their life? But if this generation is the definition of quality, the previous one is all about quantity. If there is a platforming game on the PS1, you're likely to find a bunch of sequels. Spyro, Croc, Crash, Gex. These platformers all had sequels, and even on other consoles like Banjo-Kazooie had itself multiple runs. These platformers are surprisingly memorable due to the long amount of times you will spend with these characters, and Gex's voice lines.
I am most certainly not in the vicinity of Kansas anymore.
Come on, which other video game character is a wise guy like Gex? Travis, maybe? I don't know. But out of all of them, there is one that reigns supreme.
It's me, Mario! Hello!
And it goes by Super Mario 64. To some, this is the very first 3D platformer. To some, it's their favorite platformer. And to some, it's their first video game. And to me, it's okay. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but some people are just very biased towards this and overrate it. You can literally feel its age. Sure, I do like this better than Galaxy 2, I'll give it that. But man, this is just a clunk fest. And yeah, sure, it paved the way for other games, but its flaws are flawier than ever. Oh, and Bubsy 3D exists, just to put it out there. Now let's come back to the day with the likes of 3D All-Stars, Crash 4, and Sackboy, along with a 3D World remake upon the horizon. I'd say 3D platformers are in a pretty safe spot. It is kind of sad how Sackboy Big Adventure was kind of overlooked due to its poor yet convenient release date. But anyways, 3D platformers are back and are more plentiful than ever. Maybe this will be the true 3D platformer renaissance we're all hoping for. But there is one more game that needs to be made to make this the perfect renaissance. The Gex Insane Trilogy! Why doesn't this exist yet?
How I'm not in the NBA is a mystery.